So when sharpening a Stanley number 45 or a 55 iron, you're basically going to come across two different things that you need. Number one is just a standard chisel, and this is basically just like you do any other chisel. And then you have your molding planes, your coves, your beads that have these interior things that you can't quite get at. So I want to kind of show you how we go about actually sharpening these. So when sharpening a Stanley number 45 or a 55 iron, you're basically going to come across two different things that you need. Number one is just a standard chisel, and this is basically just like you do any other chisel. And then you have your molding planes, your coves, your beads that have these interior things that you can't quite get at. So I want to kind of show you how we go about actually sharpening these. Now here I have my sharpening board, and I have a coarse, a medium, and a fine. This one gets up to around 1200 grit, and then a strop over here that I just use with horse butt and a rubbing compound that I put into it. So the first thing we want to do is flatten the backs of these two items, and we do that by adding a little bit of window cleaner on the stones. And I'm just going to put all my pressure on the tip here, and then out here, these fingers don't push down at all, they just push the blade back and forth. And I'm going to go just a little bit, take a look at the iron, and I can see that I'm flat here, but this tip is not getting hit. So I need to adjust that a little bit more. Another way I might do it is just little in and outs like this. And this can be done basically one-fingered. And there, I've gotten most everything. I just need a little bit more in that corner still. So let's go back to over here. This is a little bit more aggressive way to do it because it's a longer stroke. And you need a little more still. And once I've gotten the back on that nice and shiny all the way across, I can move on to the next stone. With the molding plane, it's the exact same process. This one I've already flattened the back on it though, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on that. Then I'll take it onto the medium. Because this is the stone, I'm just going to do this. And it doesn't take a whole lot. I'm just changing the scratch pattern, because this will leave scratches. This starts to get things almost dull looking, not being sharpened. And yeah, just that little bit there has gotten everything I need on that. And then I'm going to come over here to the fine. And that's pretty. So then the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strop it with about 30 strokes on the strop. 30. And you should be left with a mirror finish so you can actually see reflections in it, which I can, which is pretty. So then we're going to go on to the other side on this one, and this is going to take no time at all. If I wanted to, I could put this in a jig, but for small things like this, I really don't have any problem with that. I set it flat so that the bevel is down, and then I put pressure on the bevel until it touches, and you can kind of feel a contact point. And I lock all my fingers on there. I have one finger down on that bevel, 2 fingers right behind it, and I'm going to move my body at the ankles and lock my wrists and arms and everything else at that angle. And for this small of a space, it's really not going to take much time until I'm cut all the way across. I'm starting to get a slight burr on the back. Do the exact same thing here. Set it, tip it up onto the bevel, move at the ankles, lock everything else. Good. Good, and then onto the strop. 30 strokes. 30. And once I've gotten that up nice and shiny, I have a burr on the back, and so I'm just going to set it on here, put it on there, just do 1, 2, 3. And I can't feel the burr, so I'm just going to give it a couple last little strops, one side, then the other, and we can test it on the arm hairs. And I love that. Getting this nice little bald spot, also known as hand tool pattern baldness. Now, this is a little bit more tricky in that I can't do that on the stone at all. So basically what I need to do is use sandpaper, and I'm going to have a few different wooden rods that I can put on the sandpaper. Put it this way, and then I can fit those rods into these different curves, and so I can actually sand it down. And so I'm going to do basically the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it with 100 grit, 200 grit, and 400 grit, and I'm going to stop at 400 grit. You really don't need to go much of anything higher than that. Like that. And I'm going until I feel a slight burr on the back. Just like that. And then I'm going to march up through the grits. So the exact same thing as that, but then I'm going to do it with the 200 grit paper. And this may sound like I'm really not hitting it with enough grit, or I'm not taking my time and doing it perfectly, but honestly, it really doesn't make that much difference when you go with one that is, you know, perfect and mirrored on all surfaces, and one that really hasn't been all that amazingly done. Now that I have cleaned out this S-curve from there to there, I need to do this little point and this little point up here, and then I'm going to get another dowel to go into this small space up in here. So for those little flat spots, I'll actually just do them on here. And I just do it on this fine. Make them nice and shiny. Do the same thing here, let it overhang. Flat spots looks good, and because I really don't care a whole lot about stropping in this corner. You can get a piece of leather and roll it over and run it in there. Really, I haven't seen a need for that, and I can get just as sharp without doing that. And so now that I have this burr running all over the back, I'm going to set on here, just like that. Make sure we've gotten rid of the burr, make sure that the burr doesn't go over onto the other side, and then strop it off. And there is the cutter. I love seeing hair pop up like that. Hand tool pattern baldness. So let's put this in the plane and see what it does. Keeping it tight up against the fence. So even with running into a knot here, ended up with a fairly nice molding that, and I could use that on something. So there you go. That's how you sharpen it. So there you have it. A newly sharpened iron for a Stanley 55 or a Stanley 45. They're all basically the same, and whether it's just a simple 1/4 inch that's just like a chisel or a really ornate molding iron, you get the idea. They're fairly simple and fairly quick forward once you learn the skills. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit like and think about subscribing. I want to say a huge thank you to the patrons on Patreon. You guys are absolutely phenomenal and a huge encouragement to me, so thank you. If you did like the video, feel free to check out one of the other videos. You might find something there you like. And until next time, have a wonderful day.